All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. Happy afternoon and happy Tuesday to you. It is the third day of December. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, back in the noon to 3 time slot. You know, yesterday on from 3 until 7 on the drive in the absence of Brian Wilson. We've been doing that since Brian announced his retirement. But here we are back on the Matt Murphy radio show, and it's a very, very special day. We're very excited about it. Allow me, if you will, to give you some of the pleasantries of the radio show, and then we'll get things up and running and lumbering under our own weight. We are broadcasting from Valor Ridge today, the Nashville campus of Men of Valor, a wonderful ministry reconciling men to God, their families, and society. You hear me talk about this organization quite a bit on the radio show, and we're going to be talking about them quite a bit throughout the course of the day today. So it's going to be a little bit of a different show today. In as much as we've got the headlines, and we'll be updating you at the top and bottom of every hour, and I'll update you on anything you need to know about what's going on. As a matter of fact, I got a couple of headlines to get to in just a moment. But for the majority of the day, we're going to be talking about Men of Valor. It's a wonderful chance for me to kind of dive a little bit deeper into what this organization does for the state of Tennessee, what it does for, by extension, the United States of America, and how it does it in such the right way. It's a Tennessee-based ministry committed to winning over men in prison to Christ, to discipling them, and to help equip them to re-enter society as men of, well, valor. I mean, it says it right there in the name, integrity and valor, to truly become givers as a part of a community as opposed to takers. So we're going to discuss that throughout the course of the day today. We're going to talk to a lot of the folks about this organization. And today, you know, we had Thanksgiving last Thursday, and, you know, then there's Black Friday, which, you know, people go out to the malls and out and about into their local communities and spend a lot of money on the holiday season, on the Christmas season. And then Monday, yesterday, has become Cyber Monday, right? And so now in 2024, we hear about Giving Tuesday. I frankly think that should be a little bit reversed. I think maybe we should do the giving first before we start spending money on gifts and whatnot. Well, that's all well and good. I get it. I understand it, as long as it's in there somewhere, right? So today is known as Giving Tuesday, where you find a charity of your choosing and perhaps give as you can for that charity during the holiday season. And I would encourage you to give to Men of Valor. It's just an exciting and wonderful organization, and we'll be diving deep into it throughout the course of the afternoon this afternoon. Today is Tuesday, as I mentioned, December 3rd. It's our episode 705, and it's my Locks for Trump Day 276, just to get those pleasantries out of the way. Some of the headlines, you know, Tennessee is involved in a Supreme Court case, an oral argument happening tomorrow. I should signpost to you that we are expecting the Attorney General of the state of Alabama on with us tomorrow, Steve Marshall, who will be in the courtroom hearing oral arguments before the United States Supreme Court. And then on Thursday, it is our expectation to have Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti on with us in the aftermath of the oral arguments. So that's coming up a little later on in the week. We continue to get reaction from the pardon of Hunter Biden, Joe Biden making that announcement over the course of the weekend, and a few other headlines happening, and we'll get to those as the afternoon progresses. But right now we want to welcome into the program Raul Lopez, who is the executive director of Men of Valor. He's joining us via phone. I believe he's heading over to Knoxville right now, and it is an absolute pleasure to talk with Raul as we kick off our day of giving live from the campus at Valor Ridge here in Nashville. Raul, are you there, sir? Hey, you got Raul? Jeff? Well, I do not hear him. So make sure that you've got everything up that needs to be up. Just give a check there at home base and let me know. Give me the thumbs up verbally, Jeff, if you can figure out what's not pressed. I can't hear anything in the background, so I'm certain that we're not getting a connection through. One way or the other, it's wonderful to see this for yourself. And I would encourage you, you're welcome, by the way, to stop by if you choose. The Men of Valor campus, their reentry campus, consists of living quarters, living facilities. They've got a lot of construction going on right now as they've got a new administration building coming up, and that construction is going on. It's very, very exciting as it will give them the ability to facilitate even more transitions into reentry into life. I believe we have Raul on the line. Raul, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you, Raul. How are you, sir?
Okay, great. How about you?
Man, I'm doing great. Wonderful to be on campus. Wonderful to spend a day talking to folks about the wonderful organization that's Men of Valor. And a great way to kick it off is to talk to you and kind of introduce or reintroduce people to the mission and the overall purpose of Men of Valor. Raul, just give us an overview. What do you tell folks when they say, what's Men of Valor all about?
Well, we've been around over 25 years, like you said earlier, ministering to men and their families, and trying to change, use God's power as well as volunteers and staff to change their lives and give them hope. And in the process, also making our community safer. From any given year, 80 to 90% of our men do not return to prison. They never do crime again. And, over 90% of people are going to come out of prisons. And, it's basically a flip of the coin if they're going to, recommit crime. So we're doing all that, plus the spiritual aspect of it. And we're so excited to be part of your show. The thing I love about 99.7, I've been a listener for years, almost 30, but in particular your audience, is the accountability that you guys put on legislators and people, and that goes in line with what we do at Men of Valor. Not only are we working with these men spiritually, but we hold them accountable. And they own up to what they did, that they turned the page, and now want to give back to the community. So I'm just honored to be a part of 99.7 and the team.
Well, it goes right back the opposite way. I mean, I feel the same about you and your team at Men of Valor. In concept, Raul, for years, I've talked to my audience about how things ought to be working, how we should not lean on government or taxpayer dollars necessarily to do all of these things for us. And I've often preached in my own way that there are some things that we're asking government to do that government just isn't equipped to do, but government can work in partnership with charitable organizations like Men of Valor. And Men of Valor can do those things that perhaps government can't do. And that is what I see you guys doing every day. Obviously, this would not work without the partnership of the state, without the partnership of the governor's office and the legislature, the General Assembly. Obviously, they help give you the ability to facilitate all of the things that you do inside of the prison systems. Talk a moment about that partnership that you have with the state of Tennessee and how that helps you do what you do on a daily basis.
Well, basically, we look in the government agencies like the Department of Labor for job readiness programs. There's some funds available, and we take advantage of that. So again, there's no silver bullet for a man to succeed after prison, but there's definitely 3 or 4 factors, and one of them is definitely employment. So we take advantage of that. We apply, and we've been blessed. We applied for the opioid grant, which a lot of people are addicted to opioid, and we've been blessed that now we're fighting the addiction of opioid. And so situations like that, the Department of Mental Health, they have some programs for mental health, which is a big deal also. And on the opioid thing, Matt, let me tell you something. Right now, and I know your listeners know this because you educate them, we have a crisis in Tennessee with gangs. And Men of Valor is being known as a gang breaker. I formerly came from a gang. I know you know my friend Tommy Vallejos, who heads up our Spanish ministry. He came from a gang, and our counselor director that deals with trauma came from the cartel. And we know the hardships of a lot of people that join the gangs because of lack of fatherhood and direction. And we see literally daily gangs, people leaving the gangs and coming and joining together. And that's one of the reasons I came to Chattanooga. They just did an arrest for the first time in one of these Venezuelan gang members. And So, yes, we are a prison ministry, but we also want to prevent crime in the process.
Raul Lopez is with us. He's executive director of Men of Valor Ministry, talking about the organization and this day of giving. I mean, but none of this, and this gets us back to some of your wonderful partners, like Core Civic Foundation. I'm going to talk a little more about those guys in just a moment because they're matching anything that we raise during the show today. They're going to offer a match to it up to, I think, total of $15,000, $5,000 per hour, but also Sage Spring Wealth Partners, Lee Company. I mean, these wonderful partnerships with these organizations also make it possible for you to continue doing what you do. And I just wanted you an opportunity to talk about some of those partnerships that gives you the opportunity to succeed in the ways that you are.
Yes, obviously we can't do it with the need is so great, and financial support is tremendous. But we also need churches and volunteers. We have, we need volunteers to teach in the prison, volunteers to teach in the reentry. We need all kinds of people that, love God, want to keep our community safe. And we also have a family ministry where we work with the mamas and the kids, and so there's a lot of opportunity. And I love this. And, Matt, I'll be honest with you, as usual, you think outside the box. I like your Giving Tuesday suggestion of moving it up before we spend all our money.
Well, I mean, it occurs to me that it fits a little bit better right as we're spending a special day reminding ourselves of all of the things that we have to give thanks for. Before we move on to the malls, maybe we should move on to the charities first, and we might have a little bit more money. Look, I've said for a long time, Raul, you've probably heard me say it, that, it was a special moment in my life when I realized that giving was a selfish act. In other words, that giving caused me to receive so much more emotionally, spiritually, from a salvation standpoint. I mean, the giving to a charity like Men of Valor becomes a selfish act in as much as I get so much back from it that I just want to incorporate that spirit in everything that we do today, and frankly, more so in what we do in our daily lives. So, yeah, we need to move it up just, and create a Giving Friday as opposed to a Giving Tuesday so we have a little more cash on hand. Cyber Monday sucks down some cash. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's exactly right. So.
Well, be safe, Raul. We're going to enjoy ourselves on campus today. We're going to have many great conversations, get some testimony out here, and raise some good money for Men of Valor today.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you and your listeners and the station. Again, I've been listening to it so many years, and it's always I love the local aspect and how we bring it back to home in Nashville. So thank you. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to seeing your haircut soon. Oh,
yeah, we'll see you soon. That's Raul Lopez, Executive Director of Men of Valor, joining us for a few good minutes on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN as we broadcast live from Valor Ridge, the Nashville campus of the reentry program for Men of Valor. It is Giving Tuesday. Now, on the show today, it's going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to remind you of that on several different occasions as we have so many people coming in and going out during lunchtime. And, we've got, folks moving into the show all the time. But it will be a different sort of show. That doesn't mean that we forget about the breaking news that's happening throughout the course of the day. But we're focusing in on this organization. And I'm asking you on this Giving Tuesday to give if you are able. I know we do that a lot this time of year. There are a lot of different organizations worthy of your money. But I would suggest to you that Men of Valor, not only do you get back in terms of what you receive spiritually or emotionally, but you also get back in terms of the return on your money. Because as we have said for so many weeks and months now that I've been talking about Men of Valor, up to 90% of the men who go into prison are getting out, right? 90% of the people that go into prison are getting out. And sadly, without intervention, without someone being there to counsel and to disciple these individuals within the system, most of those men go back. And I'm sad to tell you that that's the case, but it is. Over half the men within 3 years that get out of prison will find themselves back in the prison system without some sort of intervention. That not only cost us as a community, that not only adds to crime within our community, adds to the despair in certain aspects of our community. It also costs you a lot of money in terms of helping these people or facilitating the incarceration of these individuals. So I would suggest to you that not only is it a spiritual motivation, but there's also a monetary motivation in terms of saving our taxpayer dollars. We'll continue talking along those lines with Tommy Viejos. Am I pronouncing Tommy's last name correctly? It's all over the map, isn't it? It's all over Alex says it's all over the place. Well, I'll ask the man himself coming up in just a couple of minutes as we continue from the Men of Valor campus. By the way, I'm going to mention this, and I'll mention this a lot too. If you find it on your heart to give whatever you're able, whether it's $1 or $100 or $1,000, whatever you're able, a couple of things. One, Core Civic Foundation has generously agreed to match your donation up to $5,000 per hour. So that's a $15,000 total. So if you are blessed in your life right now and you can give a little bit more, you'll be matched by Core Civic Foundation up to $5,000 per hour over the course of this program. Give.movministry.com is the website. Give.movministry.com. When you go there, you'll see the gift page where you can make an impact on the state of Tennessee and on the many, many lives that have been impacted and affected by Men of Valor. So give.movministry.com. It's 21 after the hour, back after this on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We will get to today's top stories, but we do have a traffic issue that's fairly significant that we want to pass along. Interstate 40 eastbound at the Donaldson Pike exits. The interstate shut down. All lanes are blocked. The shoulder's blocked as well. Unofficial reports of a pedestrian being struck there earlier. But again, that's I-40 eastbound right there before the airport, the Donaldson Pike exits. All lanes are blocked, so the interstate literally shut down there. Again, we'll have an update on that if we can, as well as top stories coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Mr. Jay Harper, it is 1225, Super Talk 99.7 WTN on location today on this Giving Tuesday live from the campus of Men of Valor, the Valor Ridge campus. And you are invited, if you want to stop by, we're in the administrative trailer. Come on by and see us right across the street from the construction that's going on as they build a new administration building to better serve the people of the state of Tennessee. Talking about that, we welcome into the show Tommy Vallejos. Am I saying that correctly,
man,
Tommy?
You sound like you ate some jalapenos. You said it just right. You said it just right.
What's going on, brother?
Man, doing good, man. Getting ready for Christmas and, doing what we're doing here at Men of Valor, changing lives and getting them in the right direction, right path.
You and I talked, the last time we talked, we were talking about some of the things going on in the state of Tennessee with regard to the Latino community across the state of Tennessee. You do a lot of work with the General Assembly. Are you kind of the liaison with the General Assembly with Men of Valor?
I am the liaison there. I'm there speaking on behalf of Men of Valor, but I've been going up there since 2006, representing one thing or another. But being with Men of Valor is a total different aspect. I get to represent, the Word of God and the men that are up here and the examples that they leave in our community and the impact that they have directly with the community. Imagine one man recently, about a year ago, it's been a year now, he cooked and ate Thanksgiving for the very first time with his family in 28 years. Why?
What?
Christ was restoring his family and relationships were restored, and his family finally got to say, "Hey, Dad," instead of Russell. They called him Russell because they didn't know who he was, but now he's their dad.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That's incredible.
It's a story after story, just like that.
And you, tell me a little about your backstory. I mean, where did you come from and how did you find
Well,
Men of
I
Valor?
came from Roswell, New Mexico, born into a family of gangbangers. 1967, experienced my first drive-by shooting. Lost 2 brothers and a stepfather to gang violence, 3 brothers to prison for murder, and a little sister who just 2 months ago got out of prison, serving a murder hitch of 28 years, buried 2 of her kids. I was on my way to prison, and Lord had mercy on my life, and I ended up coming and joined the military. It was either prison or the Army, and joined the Army in 1980 and served 21 years and retired 23 years ago. So now I've been spreading the gospel for 35 years.
God bless you. I mean, that's so wonderful. You and I, one of these days, need to sit down and we need to chart the course of my father-in-law in Roswell, New Mexico, and see if y'all crossed paths at some point.
Hopefully it's good. I always tell people we got 2. Roswell's known for UFOs, right?
Right.
And, I always tell them you got 2 types of aliens: illegal and UFO aliens. So, but Roswell is a place of rich heritage for me. Family's been there since 1868 in our own community called Chihuahuita. And but God brought me here, and I became a Mexican hillbilly and planted me right here to do God's work. And what you see here is evidence of what we do for the changing of people's lives. Think about Jelly Roll. Look what happened to him.
That's right.
He mentioned
That's right.
Men of Valor and the impact Men of Valor had on his life. And so that's what men do. We are changing lives one life at a time.
How does it when you're inside of the system, what does that look like? And I'm going to talk about this a lot today because I want people to understand on the ground level how you approach these individuals when you first make contact with them within the system. How does that work?
Well, it works several ways. There's several ways. Number one is word of mouth. Number one way is word of mouth. Everybody hears about Men of Valor. We're in every prison. We're in the biggest county jails. And they hear word of mouth, Men of Valor, Men of Valor. It's not a halfway house. It's a program where you can go live in townhouses, man. They treat you good. They get you jobs, get you medical. Man, they hear it. Then they hear from the chaplain system, and then somebody else, maybe court to tell them, hey, here's your option. And so they hear it. And then there's a kiosk. In a lot of these prisons and jails, there's a kiosk there, and they can go in there and look at the various programs that are working around the state, and they pick Men of Valor because we're the number one program. We have a 14.7 recidivism rate. The state knows about it. It's a representative. We have people coming from around the nation to see and hear what we're doing. But when they see it, it's a life impact.
Now, I get a chance in my regular job, right, to talk to a lot of these legislators, to talk to these guys in the Senate and the House of Representatives. What do you need? I mean, what do you when you talk to them? What does Men of Valor need from our government in that relationship to better facilitate what you do on a regular
Well,
basis?
you see what we're building back here. We're putting life back into these men's lives, being able to learn about skills, life skills. We're talking. We know that there's a lack of VOTEC skills in this nation: welding, plumbing, electrician, sheet metal. And then there's some of our men that come to us uneducated. Maybe they need a GED, and maybe they need. Well, this building is called our Hope Center, and that center is going to help them. It's going to be counseling. We're going to do counseling there. So you hear about all these things. So that building is part of our ask that we're still asking help from our state officials, because listen, if we can save millions, hundreds of millions by preventing somebody getting back in prison into the system, it takes $32,000 a year to incarcerate one individual. But if we can save them, all these men, one at a time, we're changing life. When you come on this campus and you see that, that's why our state legislators, when they come up here, they're devastated. We had our attorney general here, who we need to pray for. He'll be in the Supreme Court tomorrow. But he came here, and his whole staff were in tears. They were just falling apart.
Oh, it's impactful. I mean, just looking at the way that you're changing people's lives.
And even the health commissioner, his staff were in tears, just seeing testimony after testimony. And you know what was sad is that a lot of these men were talking about, some of the molestation when they were little. And we're addressing that through our counseling and through many aspects of what we do. Because I've been a pastor for 35 years, and I tell them you got to separate the spiritual from the clinical. And we're addressing the clinical. One of our governmental relations specialists has helped us secure grants and helping us in that direction. So there's always a need, but because you think about it, today is Giving Tuesday, and there's never enough to help people, because there's always another man need, and so that's what we do.
Give as you can. Go to give.movministry.com. That's give.movministry.com. Whatever you're able to give, we certainly appreciate it. And I've been saying it wrong. It's the Workplace Development and Ministry Center right behind us, which is going up as we speak. Tommy, thank you for the wonderful work that you do. I appreciate you so much for spending a little bit of time with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
God bless you.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment, a little bit late for our bottom of the hour timeout. We got a news update. We'll update you on this traffic situation on 40 eastbound, which is closed down due to what we believe is a pedestrian fatality on the interstate. So we'll talk about that coming up in the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It is 12:32, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. And again, as Matt just alluded to, I-40 eastbound right there before those Donaldson Pike exits. That's around mile marker 216. All eastbound lanes are still shut down, and they are routing folks off the interstate. And looking at traffic cameras, the traffic is backed up. Well, for all the way back to about Spence Lane. So just be forewarned about that. In international news, in defiance of South Korean President Yoon's order of martial law, the country's parliament has voted to lift martial law as outrage grows over its enactment in the streets. ABC's Britt Clinette says this appears to be a power move from the South Korean president seeking to maintain control rather than a safety concern.
Is it enough to kind of make his point? You know, he was frustrated by not being able to pass anything through the legislature, by attempts to block any laws that he wanted to pass. Will he be satisfied with this, or is he going to take it a step further? What we're seeing from these protests is that this is not exactly what South Koreans want to see on the streets.
The numbers are in, and Tennesseans showed up in big numbers to vote during the presidential election. The Tennessee Secretary of State's Division of Elections said yesterday that just over 3 million voters turned out to vote on November 5th. About 2.1 million cast their ballots early and in person. Both of those figures breaking records here in the volunteer state. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they pick up 11 electoral votes from Tennessee. That is the latest news. We've got weather next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Happy Libertarian Lunch, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. You can find us in a lot of different ways, obviously on the radio, 99.7 FM. We're also streaming just about anywhere you stream news or music or information or, of course, podcast. You can stream us, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. We're also on Talk TV. For you I normally say for you masochists, but I have a special guest, and she's a lot easier on the television side of things than I am. Supertalk TV available, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Watch us on Supertalk TV. It's Giving Tuesday, and in that spirit, we were invited to be a part of a campus event at the Men of Valor campus, the Valor Ridge campus, their reentry program here, and so happy to be here in one of the trailers that acts as the Workforce Development and Ministry Center. Now they're building a new Workforce Development and Ministry Center behind us, which is part of the reason that we've invited Genevieve Turner-Muckle to join us. What do you do with Men of Valor, Genevieve?
I'm the Director of Policy and Government Affairs. Nerd stuff.
That sounds, yes. I was about to say, that sounds very dorky.
It is nerd. Thank you, Matt. That is kind and why I'm here.
It's just straightforward. Get right to it.
Awesome encouragement.
What does that mean? What does that look like on a daily basis?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my job is to take research, to take data, to take what we're trying to do at high levels, and then what is that trickle-down effect, the ripple effect of that? How does it actually play out for folks who are incarcerated? For folks who are, involved in gangs, involved in criminal activity, and then also explaining on the way up of, hey, this is what you're trying to do with this new law or this new policy. Here's what it's looking like. So it goes both ways.
I've long said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we can spend our money one of two ways. We are blessed, I think, to live in a state where we have conservative enough lawmakers where if there is excess of taxpayer dollars coming in, they're going to get that back to the taxpayers, right? But they're going to spend their money where they need to spend their money. Yeah. And if there is a need for, additional services in terms of incarceration, if there's a need for additional services in terms of fighting criminal activity, they're going to use our taxpayer dollars for that need. And if they need more, they're going to go get more. You can either give your money through the government, or I think a better way is to give it through Men of Valor, which is going to reduce that need for the amount of money that the government's spending to incarcerate individuals on criminal activity and the like. What do the numbers tell you?
Sure. No, I think that's true. I mean, the impact of a community partnership with a governmental entity is very important. What we can do, I think the average right now, according to the Department of Correction and their website, is about $111.50 that we spend per day per inmate.
Can I say that again?
$111.50 per day per inmate. And that's kind of forgetting a lot of stuff, Matt. That's not taking into account court costs, court fines, DA's salaries, public defenders, EMS. Think about that. I get stabbed, the ambulance has to come, all of these things, medical. It doesn't take into account communication and what that looks like for families. And so the cost and ripple effect of these costs is extraordinary. We can't just think of the cost per day of someone incarcerated.
So what are we talking about? And it occurs to me, I need to back up for a minute. In the state of Tennessee, what's our incarceration rate? How many people are in the system? Do you know that number?
Yeah, we're at about, I haven't checked in a bit, but it's between 19 and 21,000 is where we've been sitting post-COVID.
Okay. And that's just our prison system?
Correct.
That's not jails and, county facilities and that sort of thing?
That's right. I believe the last I checked it was about 55,000 in jails.
And so that, you do the math, right? You do the 21,000 times 111. If you start, if you're in your cars and your business, you start doing the math for yourself. You're like, this is starting to be a lot of money per day. Yeah. And you multiply that by 362. It's a tremendous amount of money that we're spending. I think the statistic that I saw last night, I was doing a little research, almost $1 billion, $907 million in terms of total incarceration cost in the state of Tennessee alone. It's a lot of money. Yeah,
I think the last budget, $1.4 billion.
So when you are talking to people out and about, even lawmakers or just Joe Citizen, is that your message, that this is a way to save money? If you give a little from a charitable or donation standpoint, you can get a lot of return on your investment.
Sure. I think the fiscal argument is huge. I think that's something that definitely wakes people up to see how much our state and your tax dollars are going toward it. I think another huge message is preventative work. Is if we can look at the why, which is not always the most popular question, of looking into complex trauma, of looking into poverty, of looking into some of these issues that might help us become preventative and not have to spend that money in the first place.
I mean, we're a land of, I talk about it all the time, that we believe in equality in terms of how we're treated in the United States of America, but that doesn't mean that we all come from the same place. You just hit on it, right? So a lot of us want to believe that, well, these folks just made bad choices.
Sure.
You make bad choices, you have to live with the consequences. And Men of Valor, by the way, is an organization that believes in people doing the crime, you've got to do the time, you've got to serve your punishment for the crime committed.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think you just hit on it. Why are a lot of these things happening? You told me a statistic right before we came on air that was fascinating to me about the amount of trauma that young people are experiencing within their homes and how that translates into what type of adults they become.
Yes. I started out in the DA's office in Knoxville with victims of crime. So definitely my paradigm shift as to what the beginning stages of crime looks like has shifted tremendously over the years. Reading some things, for instance, I know personally from working in the sheriff's office too, and going and seeing children being picked up by DCS babies in diapers as they're crawling on hypodermic needles where they're from. We have a guy here. He's on staff now. He ran drugs up the entire Northeast coast for his mother and family when he was 13 years old. We have lots of guys that were selling drugs to keep up with their family and make sure their siblings had something while their moms passed out on a couch. It's about, I think the average in the U.S. is 1 in 13 to 1 in 20 young boys that have had sexual assault committed against them. For our guys at Men of Valor, that number is 1 in 4. And so if you start thinking about...
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I just need to... So, on average, let's say 1 in 15 boys have had some sort of sexual assault, molestation, etc.
Sure.
Men of Valor, it's 1 in 4?
Yeah, 25%.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and so...
that says something.
ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, run rampant in the entire criminal justice system. And, if you have over 4, you're much more prone to be incarcerated in your lifetime. And I think, the easy thing, bad things happen, get over it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But we forget some people don't have boots. When you're coming from poverty, the average amount spent on communication, on phone calls alone for someone who's locked up is $300 a month. And who's paying for that? The guys inside are making anywhere from 17 to 42 cents an hour. So it's the families. It's the people already coming and struggling and choosing, do I let my kids talk to their dad, or do I pay my phone bill that month, or my lights kept on? And so really thinking through those 10 ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and how they're layered. They're just, we all suffer trauma, but some of it's more complex.
So when you speak to someone in a governmental capacity, whether they be a political figure, lawmaker, whatnot, what's your message to them? Is the message about the soul, or is it about the wallet, or is it a little bit of a combination of both?
It's got to be a combo. I think even giving anecdotal stuff, which is not my favorite, I think we have to really use data, evidence-based data to do that, which I do with research. But I think even just saying, hey, here, can we make this about a human for a second and introduce that person? We have a day on the Hill where our guys get to go into legislative offices and just give their story, show who they are. I had a guy in my car. We got to think about this. Our average man at Men of Valor, we take violent offenders. That's not very common in transitional living. Most of our folks here have spent well over 6 years in prison. We have a guy now who spent 46 years in prison, has never had a birth certificate in his life.
I think I met him the other day.
Tim Swafford's great.
Yeah.
Never had a birth certificate in his whole life. He's dropped out of an orphanage door, has no idea his last name until some guy when he was 9 years old who beat him was like, I'm sick of telling people, well, you don't have a last name, just take mine. Oh,
gosh. And 47 years in, and then you're bringing these people on campus. How often do you get to be on the campus?
Frequently. I'm in and out of the prisons quite frequently. I'm in the county jails that we're in, and then I'm probably here once or twice a week.
How do you what is your point of interaction with the are they already part of the program, or are you meeting them as they are kind of coming in and learning about Men of Valor?
Both. Do you mean on campus?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the prison system.
Yeah, in the prison system. We do a lot of big activities. We had Tim Tebow came to Trousdale, what was it, a month ago, I believe. So we had over 400 guys who were locked up at Trousdale, not in our programming, it's incentivization.
Right.
You know, it's something when people think hard time, they don't always think of what that means for institutionalization.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in there, are we providing you programs that will keep the public safe later?
Mm-hmm.
And so to not think about that, you kind of have to be a little bit counterintuitive if you're thinking of why should we spend money on program? Well, if you want change, if you want a different product, that's what we have to do.
Well, I say that, and you're better equipped to say this than me, but you know, I mean, we all think that we know what type of individuals are going in.
Sure.
They've committed some sort of crime against a society, and they have to serve a punishment for the crime committed.
Absolutely. What
kind of men are coming out? Well, without some sort of intervention, without some sort of connection with an organization that believes in spirituality, that believes in morality, that believes in discipleship, you don't expect that a better person necessarily is coming out.
Right. How do you rehab into something you never were? You transform.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
that's perfectly said. Well, thank you for stopping by. It's been it's wonderfully educational. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to spread the message. What's your message to folks who are listening who are thinking about giving to Men of Valor?
Yeah, please give. We say around here that love is spelled T-I-M-E. And so, you know, over half of the people incarcerated never receive a single visitor, despite research showing us that greatly reduces recidivism. It might, again, sound counterintuitive to spend time there, but if you are a mentor and modeling a different way of being, I listened to this guy named Chef Jeff. He's on all kinds of cooking shows now. He's very famous. He was in federal prison, and he said he was there during Enron. So he would watch all these guys come in, and they were crossing their legs, and he said they were eating as though they weren't trying to put their arm up in savage eating, but they were eating to enjoy the food. And so even if you think you have nothing to give, I promise just by modeling behavior as to the upper middle class, it's rubbing off on people. But definitely, please, this is a great place to give for preventative work that will end up bringing safety to the public.
I want to make sure that I heard you correctly, because these little things just stick in my brain, that half of the men in prison receive no visitors.
That's right. Yeah. And the other thing about that is you have to think about who's coming. It might seem positive for your family to come, and it is, but sometimes that can hurt us because there's so much tension with parenting or whatever. So mentorship and clergy have shown to reduce that recidivism with visitation.
Well, and they're going to find some sort of family unit somewhere.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, is that going to be an organization like Men of Valor? Is that going to be some sort of gang activity within the prison system? And, you know, we got to try to help figure that out.
Good point. Yeah.
Genevieve, thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, that is Genevieve Turner Muckle, who joins us. She is Policy and Government Affairs Director with Men of Valor. Give.movministry.com. Give.movministry.com is the place where you can go and donate right now. Thanks to Men of Valor for allowing us to be on campus today. We'll be back in a moment. It's 53 after the hour. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A big story here for traffic goers on Interstate 40 eastbound. The interstate is closed on 40 eastbound there at the Donaldson Pike exits there by the airport. That would be exits 216, A, B, and C. A pedestrian reportedly struck there earlier, and it was a fatality. So the interstate there closed for the investigation. Traffic backed up all the way to Spence Lane. No word on how long that will remain an issue. Getting to the international front now, in defiance of South Korean President Yoon's order of martial law, the country's parliament has voted to lift martial law as outrage grows over its enactment in the streets. ABC's Karen Travers has the latest reaction from the Biden administration.
The White House says it is seriously concerned by the developments on the ground in South Korea and says it was not notified in advance of South Korean President Yoon's declaration of martial law. President Biden told reporters in Angola he was getting briefed on the situation. The U.S. ambassador to South Korea said in a post on social media the State Department and the U.S. Embassy are closely tracking Yoon's declaration and that the situation is fluid. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Nashville's mayor and the Metro Nashville Police Department are making a final push for Metro Council's support for FUSIS. That's the program that lets police tap into private business surveillance systems.
Metro Police are hoping City Council will vote in favor of allowing it to expand the use of FUSIS. That's the program that has local businesses volunteering the use of their surveillance video to help solve crimes.
These cameras just provide a story of what's going on at that moment in time. And that story helps us to make better decisions, to respond faster, to get more resources in the area.
But not everyone is on board. Some residents have testified about their fears, whether those fears are founded or not.
The very, very likelihood that we will have mass deportations in a couple of months, the very likelihood that people who leave this state to go and get abortions will be tracked.
Council is taking this issue up for the third time tonight. Joan Jones, WTN News.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hour number 2, the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So pleased you're with us on this Giving Tuesday. You know, Thanksgiving last Thursday, and then there's Black Friday, and then you get the weekend where you can do whatever you want. And then Monday, supposedly Cyber Monday, and they say that Giving Tuesday is today on this December 3rd. And with that in mind, we are broadcasting from the Men of Valor, Valor Ridge campus, the Reentry Services campus, where the Workplace Development and Ministry Center is up and going. I mean, they got construction going on behind us. We're in one of the facilities here where they do a lot of teaching, and I've been enjoying. We did a tour of the facility a couple of weeks ago, and we were in this room talking about the broadcast, and I was enjoying some of these wonderful pieces of art that are lining our walls. And if you're watching us on Super Talk TV, maybe you can get a look at some of the beautiful paintings that have been done along these walls. And I was wondering who the heck Marcus Martin was, and now look, he's sitting right beside me. He is one of the in prison ministry with Men of Valor, and he joins us along with Dr. Brian Johnson, who is sitting along to my left. Gentlemen, thank you for being on with us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're grateful.
Well, I'm absolutely grateful to have you. Congratulations. It's my understanding, Brian, that you just received you have been a part of prison ministry for 20 years, and you received a little bit of a commendation for that recently. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Carl Carlson, in my early 20s, he cast a vision for prison ministry, and while I was there at one of the Men of Valor prayer breakfasts, I was just gripped that I didn't have a lot of money at that time to be able to give back in that way, but I thought, I can go in, I can dedicate 1 hour a week to go meet with a man in prison, and it's just continuously grown. God's just worked on my heart and encouraged me to do so, and this is a great ministry to be able to get involved with to do that.
Marcus, I got to ask you before we get away from it about these wonderful paintings that you've done along these walls. I mean, this looks as if it's something that you've been doing for quite some time.
Yeah, my good friend, Mr. Kurt Campbell, one day said, Marcus, can you just draw some artwork in that room and just whatever you want to do? And whenever somebody tells me whatever you want to do, that's exactly what it was. So I was trying to get some guys to join me, but at that time it wasn't no guys on campus who did much art. So I just taken off. But then one guy who did that Men of Valor banner and did this stuff behind me, and then that big Jesus over there. So I can't take credit from those three. I wanted to.
Tell me a little about your experience. We were talking to Brian. He's been in the system for 2 decades now. What about yourself?
Well, Brian might be a little more squeaky clean than me. I come from the school of hard knocks, and so I've been on the other side of the fence, and that's why I first met Carl Carlson. And so I'm thankful today to be on staff for over 20 years and to now be a beacon of hope, giving back.
How do you describe for people like myself who, don't find themselves within the system, you're not face to face with someone that has just been given a 5-year sentence or whatever it might be? What is that like, sitting down with these individuals? Does it change person to person, individual to individual, or
you mean the men that's in
the men
inside?
that are in the inside?
Yeah, I think I can just relate to dysfunction. Mm-hmm. The struggle, trauma of the past, and I got a couple of unique ways to meet guys right where they're at, and so yeah, it works. It works for me.
Do you find, Brian, that are you finding these guys necessarily at rock bottom? I mean, obviously the prison system for most of us would seem rock bottom, but within the system there's kind of a dichotomy that goes on as well. What's your relationship like with the men that you sit down with?
So we have a lot of men that we do sit down with have reached a point where it's time for change. Mm-hmm. I can't keep going on this same cycle. I don't have any more runs in me. I've overdosed. I've come near death. I've broken most of my relationships with about everybody, and some of them are just I need help. Somebody please help me. Whereas there's still a lot that may not come to our services, that may not get engaged, that they're not really looking for change. They're not ready for change. And so I often think about it from a biblical, scriptural standpoint. Mm-hmm. I think about Jesus hanging on the cross. You've got one man on one side that realizes, I've got to change. It's time to change. You got the other guy just saying, I got to get out. Mm-hmm. And can you get us out of this situation? Mm-hmm. And so Jesus there, the perfect missionary, perfect man of valor, one was ready and one wasn't.
So walk us through, because I think most people listening that are thinking about giving maybe a monetary donation or even giving from a volunteer standpoint, some of their time like you did so many years ago. What is it like walking into that system? I mean, what do people, what sort of tools would you recommend people would need if they feel like they might be ready like you were so many years ago to volunteer some time?
I think if you can get over the walking into a prison, that's probably one of the most fearful things, seeing the razor wire, seeing the fences, seeing the guards, hearing the doors close behind you, and you realize these are human beings in need of help. Mm-hmm. Having that mentality and realizing that, yes, men have they've done wrong things. We can't take that away. Justice is being served, but yet these individuals are going to spend eternity somewhere. And and not only that, but they're going to be coming out and living as our neighbors. And if someone doesn't go in to try to intersect and try to minister to men to help them have a changed life, they're going to come out and do the same thing they were doing before they got there. And so we're trying not only to help men from a spiritual standpoint, but this is also a matter of public safety, that we can hopefully meet them in that faith element, point them to Christ, and help them to see that, hey, this is not just for the future and eternity, but this is about you living a brand new life from here on out, and God can make that change.
And Marcus, I would think that you have a slightly different kind of tool in your arsenal, in that you can, I would think you can relate, hey, I've been on that side of the issue. Do you use that when you talk to folks, helping them understand that there is a path forward for you, that it's a brighter outlook, and not just on this earth, but in the next?
Yeah, it just kind of comes natural. Mr. Carl Carson, our late founder, used to always say, over 90% of the men in prison will be released. What kind of man do you want to see come out? Mm-hmm. And he used to always say that to us, and it's made us think, okay, what, a man bitter or a man better? What kind of man do we want to see come out? And so, yeah, God has shown me how to use my gift set. I got 3 gifts that God has given me. One is exhortation, one is discernment, and one of them is just a word of wisdom. So you have better teachers out there, but I think I can give a word of wisdom, and I'm able to meet guys right where they're at, as I said earlier, and encourage them. So even when I can't encourage myself, I know what to say to others.
Our guests are Dr. Brian Johnson and Marcus Martin, who are both ministers within the prison system, talking to these individuals right there on the front lines. Is there an approach? I mean, I'm at a loss, because I wouldn't know. I mean, I talk on the radio for 3 hours a day, but if you brought me into a prison system and say, talk to this guy and lead him to a better way, lead him to, I mean, I wouldn't know where to start. Is there approach, or does it change person to person, individual to individual?
Being transparent is very helpful. Sometimes a guy just needs to see a healthy family man, a mm-hmm. man who it ain't about them walking the same walk. It's just about, man, what can I learn from this guy? Because I've heard guys, and I've corrected guys who've said, I don't want somebody who hadn't been through what I've been through. And then I say, hold up, because some of these guys who hadn't been through what you've been through still might know how to speak to that which you ain't experienced. So whether that's a married man, a businessman, mm-hmm. So there's a whole lot of things that a man can benefit from a person.
I mean, do you get that, Brian? Do you get, well, you don't know. I mean, because and I'm only basing this on something Marcus said, that you've not been within the system. So do you get, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been on my side of the fence.
So I think 2 things that help with that is, number 1, showing up for volunteers. I've been showing up for these last couple of decades.
Yeah.
And I think that brings some credibility, some transparency, and then being able to listen. A lot of men are inside the system are looking for somebody that will listen, that will hear their story. And once you hear their story and relate to their story the best you can because everybody could have that excuse that you've not been through what I've been through, so you can't understand what I'm going through, and nobody can help me. Well, every human being has their own story. Right. Every person has their past. So showing up and listening, and if you were to talk to some of our volunteers, you'd find out that connections happen just showing up consistently, week after week, letting these men know, hey, we love you, we care about you, we don't want to see you go back.
Do we get caught up, and by we, I mean people that don't experience the things that you experience within the prison systems so often as you do? Do we get too caught up in the act of the criminal behavior, and I feel like maybe we dismiss the factors that lead up to the criminal activity.
Yes.
That we just say, well, I've never committed a crime. I've never committed a violent crime. I've never done that. Why did they do that? I think that we harden our hearts to a certain degree, and I understand that it's human nature, but I also understand that the factors that brought them to this place aren't necessarily going to change the tools that can lead them out of this place. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I think people can easily get caught up in, since I haven't done what you've done, you've done the crime, you should do the time. And I think we still forget the balance of childhood dysfunction and trauma, because it's some stuff that men have talked to me about, on a one-on-one, that I said, man, you can't be nothing but angry.
Right.
You can't be nothing but mad. You can't be nothing but violent. And so, and not making an excuse for his actions, but it just, I think sometimes on the outside looking in, we can forget that this person got a real story that has birthed all of that dysfunction.
Right. What about it, Brian? What do you think?
So I usually focus on justice must be served, but we also know that mercy triumphs over judgment. And so coming in from that perspective, I would say it is easier on our side of it because we're not the victims. We haven't necessarily faced that crucial hour of hurt and pain and harm. And so being removed from that a little bit, I think, helps us to show the kind of mercy that is needed to bring about the change in their life, because, as Marcus mentioned, everybody's got that story. There's things that they've done in their past, and I often say that this is an explanation for how you got here, but it can't continue to be an ongoing excuse for how you choose to live your life.
When you're sitting down to minister with someone, do you have expectations for that person? Do you set any expectations at some point down the road, like, hey, I'm just curious if there's, I don't want to call it accountability. That's the first word that came to my mind, but I guess expectations is a better way to put it.
I like how Scott Reel said in the Journey to Freedom book that pre-contemplation is what he called it. But before a person can change, they have to decide, do I even want to change? Mm-hmm. And so I don't set no high expectations. I really want to hear their story first, hear their perspective, whether they said wrong or right, or the way I think they ought to say it or feel it. I just have to just give them time to tell their story, and then try to gauge what they want, what they need. Now, we know ultimately it's Jesus.
Right.
But sometimes we have to just wait and see that this person know that.
Yeah, I would add that I think two things, honesty and hope. Number one, I want to find out, where is this man at currently? Is he looking for change? Is he ready for change? We have to, as we interview men to see if they're coming to this campus, we're wanting men that are looking for change, that want a different life. If they're not ready for that, then there may be somewhere else for them to go, or maybe continue in the system or whatever it is. But we're searching for men that want change. And then secondly, one of the fun things I like to do sometimes when I'm interviewing a guy, because the mentality can be so strict and so caught up in the past that it's so hard to look at today and not even think about tomorrow. Sometimes I say, have you ever thought about, ask them how many kids they have, and then if they have grandkids, have you ever thought about sitting on your front porch drinking sweet tea and looking at your grandchildren come up in your child's car and running up to the front porch and jumping in your lap? And some of them that trying to build that hope in their lives that this can be you. Things can change, and trying to form that imagination that things, with God's help, anything is possible, but it's got to start today with a serious recognition of where you are, taking ownership of your life, and moving forward day by day in daily renewal.
Is the biggest battle, trust? Or is that a big part of the battle?
It's a part of it. I don't know if it's the biggest, but I know it's a part of it. It's almost like that kitten or puppy you bring home in the cage, and you open it up and it don't want to come out, and you had to kind of just keep, and then you set a bowl of something there, and then it finally comes out and start to trust you. So yeah, we have some of that going on where guys have major trust issues because of how they've been hurt. coming up. But, yeah, that's part of it.
And it just occurs to me in my life that I compare it to, if you've ever you can't say this anymore because of the new lights at these football stadiums, but a high school football game when I was a kid, every once in a while the lights would go off. And trust is like this, that if the lights are on, they go off immediately. And it took, 20, 30 minutes for them to come back on. And I look at trust that way, that trust, if it's there, and it's bright and it's robust. When it goes away, it almost goes away instantaneously, and it takes a long time to rebuild that trust. And you have no idea. It occurs to me when you're talking to somebody who broke their trust, who broke their love, who broke their faith in whatever way it happened, and you kind of have to navigate that. It occurs to me, I don't mean to tell you guys what you do on a regular basis, but you kind of have to navigate that.
We do. And I think part of it, as I mentioned earlier, is just showing up, being available, listening, being humble enough to hear their story.
Right.
That builds that trust. And as they see it build with us, they realize, hey, if I can build this relationship, I can build some other relationship, most importantly with the Lord, but needing those people to surround you as you get out.
Marcus, what is it like? When you talk to somebody, do you keep that person? Do you hand them off to another volunteer or another someone else in the ministry? How does that work?
Okay, so if it's not word of mouth, if I'm not actually walking on the prison compound or jail or down a hall and a guy say, hey, how do I get in Men of Valor? It'll start with an application. And the application is going to have the best of who they feel they are or the worst. Some guys are very honest and transparent about what they've been through. One guy might have been doing cocaine, but he might put down that marijuana was my issue because he don't really want to look bad.
Right.
So sometimes you have to learn through, look at their goals, look at the stuff that they say they want, look at how they describe God, and then just kind of go from there.
What is the ministry like within the system once you recognize that someone is ready to be a part of, quote unquote, Men of Valor? What does that look like while they're inside?
It's a little bit different at different facilities.
Marcus is laughing at me.
That's a good one for him.
Yeah, we have. For example, one of the prisons I go to here, we have a Monday morning chapel, and so anybody on the entire compound is allowed to come, and so that's our beginning point. We want to invite anybody and everybody that's willing to have change and come to hear the truth. And then from there, we have discipleship groups that men can get involved in, and those are men that want to go a little bit deeper. And sometimes, a lot of times, if we can get them funneled through that, then we see they're showing consistency. They're showing that they can be trusted. And so that helps us. They're really looking for change. And so those are the guys we're really wanting to bring to campus. But sometimes we have men that are crying out from a county jail or from a facility that we don't have programming in perhaps, or don't have it where we can reach everybody in the entire compound. And they're calling out for help, and so that looks a little bit different in how we minister to them. It's more of a one-on-one interview and things of that nature.
The tablet has been helpful. These guys got tablets in some of the county jails, so I've had long conversations with guys. I'm like, this is all I can probably do with him. Is work through his tablet, share some scripture with him.
Never occurred to me that you could possibly do that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's they're trying to have him pretty much in all the jails,
right,
going forward. So
I would expect that volunteerism is always a need. For you guys within the systems.
Certainly. There's no way we can accomplish all that is being done by ourselves or even within our own team. We have a multitude of volunteers that have come alongside us to help us here on campus and inside the prison. And I love those men and women that help us, and just amazing hearts.
Gentlemen, thank you for everything that both of you do. It's so needed, and you're so wonderful at what you do, and we appreciate you spending some time with us talking about it.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for
Marcus Martin, Brian Johnson, thank you guys so much. 25 after the hour, quick timeout on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. We are approaching 1:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Quickly, though, let's get you an update on the traffic situation. I-40 eastbound right there at the 216 exits. That would be the Donaldson Pike exits. It's been closed, the whole interstate there, for the last couple of hours due to a pedestrian accident there that turned out to be a fatality. Now, I am looking at traffic cameras at the moment, and it does appear that they have started to open one lane there. Again, this is 40 eastbound, right there by the airport at the 216 exits. But as you can imagine, traffic moving very, very slowly and is backed up past Spence Lane. Now, getting to today's top stories, President-elect Trump already talking tough on Hamas, and he's not even mentioned them by name. Trump sending a very strong message to the terror group that they should release all the hostages from Gaza before he returns to the Oval Office. Trump's harsh remarks come as the IDF announced that one of these 7 American hostages, Omer Nutra, is dead. ABC's Jordana Miller, she's in Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and lawmakers here across the political spectrum praising President-elect Trump for demanding the release of Gaza hostages before he takes office on January 20th. In a social media post, Trump threatening if the hostages are not released, there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East and against the perpetrators, a reference to Hamas. The terror group holding 97 living and dead hostages, among them 7 Americans.
Back here in Nashville, Fox 17 reports that the Tennessee State Veterans Homes Board is grappling with a $1.1 million deficit. That's according to a recent state audit. The report attributes the financial shortfall to several factors, including patient mix, occupancy rate, agency nurse costs, startup expenses, and, of course, inflation. The state veterans home opened in Cleveland, Tennessee in June of last year. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show through 3 o'clock today when we hand off with the drive. Listen, I told you it would be a different kind of day, and it has been a different kind of day. We're celebrating Giving Tuesday at the Men of Valor Reentry Campus here at Valor Ridge. You're invited to stop by. You can see the construction going on the Workforce Development and Ministry Center. You can see the campus itself, and you can meet some of the wonderful people that have benefited from the God's work, truly God's work that is being done by Men of Valor. We ask you, if you're able, to go to give.movministry.com and give as you can, and every gift is being matched by Core Civic Foundation. We want to thank Core Civic. They're matching $5,000 per hour, up to $5,000, I should say, and we appreciate those guys. We also thank Sage Spring Wealth Partners and Lee Company for being partners in this endeavor that we're doing today until 3 o'clock. We welcome our next guest, who is the pastor of Antioch First Baptist Church. He is a volunteer and a supporter of Men of Valor. It's Pastor Matt Gray, who joins us here on campus. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good, Matt. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Talk to us a little bit about your experience at Antioch and how you got involved with Men of Valor.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a pastor at Antioch almost 4 years now. My wife and I and 5 other families were planting a church in the Lenox Village area, and we started January 2020 meeting, and we know how that went. 3 months was great, and then the world shut down.
Sure it did.
So, how do you plant a church in the middle of a pandemic? Well, we just sort of ride it, and we were like, Lord, you've got to do something. Yeah. And during that time, he connected us with guys over here to Antioch First Baptist. And after about 6 months of conversation, we were able to realize the Lord was calling us to be one community.
Wait, this
together.
is your church right down here, the one that I just passed?
Right around the corner, man.
Oh, that's
If
awesome.
you just cut through the bushes, you can go straight. You don't even have to drive. Yeah, you can just walk across.
Good for you. I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're
Go
good. So, yeah, man, we at the end of 2020, beginning of 21, just really talked through what it would look like to bring our core group as a church plant over to Antioch First Baptist, who was planted in 1810. Mm-hmm. Like, the history of the church is incredible. We're sitting in the area called Antioch. Do you know why it's named Antioch?
I do not.
Not because of anything but that church. That church was already here, established, ready to go. And when Nashville started naming this community, they go, you're making a difference already. We want to see this community named Antioch.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And so I'm stepped in as the 33rd pastor of 214 years of history.
Wow.
To lead this congregation with our core group together. It's been great.
Well, and the I guess it was just a natural partnership with Men of Valor. Did that partnership predate you as pastor of the church?
Yeah, that predated me. These guys have been up here for a long time, long before I got here. And again, like I said, you can walk across. And so what it looks like now for us as a partner, man, these guys have graduations. They have classes that are able to fit in an area that they can't fit right now. Mm-hmm. And so that building is there, ready to be used. And so we were able to walk through a partnership agreement together. They've got keys to the building. They literally can use it anytime. We have conversations back and forth about, hey, we need this. We're going to be here. It's great. We love having that as their second home.
And I know from talking to Raul and Alex that the graduates who are here on campus, at some point they have the ability to go to any church of their choosing. But I bet many of them pick Antioch. I mean, I would expect that they're already heading over there prior to having that opportunity, right?
Yeah, you can catch a little bit more sleep if you want to come with us. Yeah, they don't have to get up and catch the bus and get somewhere else. No, it's great. We love having those guys come over to worship with us. It's just so good. When I came here and wanted the heart of a pastor to look, what does that look like? I want people who look different than each other, standing next to each other, worshiping Jesus. Mm-hmm. We don't all need to look the same. We all need to be from different backgrounds, from different opportunities. And what a great ministry to partner with right across the street to go, hey, come over here and let's worship Jesus together. It's beautiful.
Well, and I would think, I don't pretend to know your story, Matt, but I would think that, this is why you got into the ministry, right? I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road, is bringing men to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, the calling has been there. My grandmother, who's 88, still alive today, every Monday night, she and another lady go up to the county jail and go into the women's side and sit there and she's done that my entire life. All can I remember. My grandfather, when he was alive, he spent hours and hours and hours preaching in the prison. So this has been a part of my ministry long before I even stepped into ministry. I saw my grandparents do it. And so when we have the opportunity to go, hey, there are guys who are right behind our facility who have probably gone through something that we can't even imagine, yet they're wanting to see the Lord change their life. Why wouldn't we want to partner together and have them come and worship with us and use our facilities?
And as we speak on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, what's your message to folks who are listening right now about the work that Men of Valor does and how that correlates to their home church, how that correlates into their daily lives?
Yeah, I would say from the beginning, obviously there's hesitations that people, preconceived notions that people have about, well, what are these guys like, what they've been through, should we welcome into our church, should we come and partner with them? They've had hard roads. I don't think you can look at Scripture and not see someone who's been totally transformed, used by the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so their past and their history is just more of a testimony of what God can do, not what God can't do because of what they've done. And so I would just say, let those preconceived notions, let those fears fall and really step in. There's a total different experience when you look someone eye to eye as far as looking from them from far away. When you get that close, there's an opportunity to go, hey, these are people who, just like me, just made mistakes, and I've made mistakes, and by the grace of God, we're here together. And so how can we partner and walk to this road together?
I mean, it's a story. It's a story that we've heard so often. It's almost a parable of the church and you get the Satanist or whatever types of characters, the bikers. You hear it different ways, and they come to the back of the church, and the deacons are like, "Whoa, we don't think that you belong here," and the pastor's like, "Well, if they don't belong here, then who does?"
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's what the church is ultimately all about.
Yeah, I mean, we just I think it was a couple years ago, the Jesus Revolution movie. I think we got a great picture of that, of what it looks like to welcome people who don't look like you, who don't have that same experience, who are not buttoned up. Maybe we need to unbutton a little bit. And hopefully when we worship together, we see a bigger picture of what heaven's going to be like, not what we've preconceived it in our own churches.
Well, Pastor Gray, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for giving us a little bit of an insight into Antioch and the history of the church, the Baptist church, and your relationship with Men of Valor. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to be
there's
here.
Dr. Matt Gray. We'll be back in just a moment with a couple of graduates of the Men of Valor program with their testimony, which is an incredibly powerful one, and we'll give that to you in just a moment. Don't forget, give.movministry.com. Back in a moment, we are live on the Reentry Campus, Valor Ridge, with Men of Valor on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
President-elect Trump's choice for defense secretary. He's on Capitol Hill today, drumming up support. An NFL player suspended after a devastating hit on a defenseless quarterback, and a medical trailblazer has passed away. We'll have those stories at 2 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Jay Harper. Matt Murphy on location at the Valor Ridge campus, the reentry campus of Men of Valor on this Giving Tuesday, December 3rd. Thank you for being with us. And I said from the top, and I'll reiterate it, it's a special kind of show. It's a different kind of show. We're not dealing with the issues and, the minutia of news items of the day. We're talking about a few more spiritual items on today's docket as we talk about Men of Valor, the ministry that they provide, the people of the state of Tennessee through prison systems, through the jail ministries that they do, and their reentry services that they provide on campus in Nashville and in Knoxville. And we've got two graduates of the Men of Valor joining us right now. Will LaFew. Did I get that last name right, Will?
Did.
I did it. All right, good. I was worried about it. And Matthew Bobo is joining us here on campus with us. Gentlemen, hello. Good afternoon.
Hello. How are you? Pleasure being here.
Doing great. As we were talking about just before the break, obviously it's always awkward to talk about some of the worst times in your life, but I think some of the worst times in your life sometimes provide some of the greatest moments in your life, and I think that's what Men of Valor truly is all about. So, Will, I'll just ask you first. I mean, talk to me about how you came to know Men of Valor, what your life was like then and how it changed.
Okay, well, I was sitting in a prison cell, and one of my friends I was going to church with gave me an application and said, hey, I think you should go here. I got accepted into a couple other programs, but I checked Men of Valor out, and it was like really something I wanted to do. I just gave my life to Christ, and they had a huge application, but I filled it out, and it was all about God. And Tommy Mathis came and prayed with me.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, I really have to go there. And I get here, and you have guys like Mark Hodge, you got Kurt Campbell, Tevin Peterson, guys that I wanted to be like, because I've never seen any guys like that, spiritual guys that really, they were Christians and they walked it out. And
how long before? I mean, how long were you here alive before you turned your life over to Christ? What was life like before that happened?
Life was rough. I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, somewhat Christian, and what I thought was Christian. His back was Baptist, so it was all fire and brimstone, no love.
Right.
So I get here and it was different, but my life was rough. I was a ex-gang member. I'd given all that up to come here and to walk with Christ.
Yeah. And when did you go through the program? How long ago?
I got out August 20th of 21.
Yeah.
And I did my year. I graduated August 20th of 22. And I became a manager in between times because I just like to help. I wanted to give back to, because I've always been a taker. I've never been a giver until now. And
right.
I got to give back. And
all right. I'm going to get back to you in just a moment, Will. We're going to talk about this new ride that you just got. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But Matthew, just give us a sense of what your background was and what led you to prison life, which eventually led you to Men of Valor.
All right. Well, growing up, I was living in a godless family. Yeah. There was no religion, no spirituality, nothing. Mm-hmm. So I grew up a little rough, stayed in and out of trouble constantly. Just figured I'd doing on my own thing, and messed up, went to prison, got out the first time, and doing good for about a year or two, messed back up, got a DUI, a possession on intent to resell, and a driving without a license.
Mm-hmm.
I figured I'd run back to Texas and out of sight, out of mind type thing. And coming to find out, they don't forget. And I went back to prison, in which I think the Lord started working in my life in Texas, because that's when I got pulled over and finally got extradited back here.
Mm-hmm.
I was in prison sitting there, and I made parole. And I decided to try to figure out a place to go because I couldn't go back to Texas and I couldn't go home. So I figured, well, we got to find a halfway house or something. And a real good friend of mine named Michael Cyree, he pointed Men of Valor out. And thank God he did, because I came here to Men of Valor August the 4th of 22. And ever since then, my life has completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
I figured I was going to get out, be by myself again, but the Lord put Mark Hodge there in my path, and I count my brother Will, and all my other brothers here, man, it's been awesome.
And I think it's a real testimony to the way that Men of Valor does things, that, you know, after you guys graduate, you want to stick around. You want to be those people on the other side of the table trying to help those individuals who are currently on campus find their own way. That's a pretty cool testimony to what they do at Men of Valor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they're making leaders. I mean, it's disciples, discipling, and they just keep discipling. It's just a pattern, and we get to do that. We get to help men that were in our current situation, and we're overcomers. We overcame prison, addiction, and all that because of the help of Men of Valor.
Is it important? I mean, the timing in this process, right? I think it's 6 months that they expect you to remain on campus, and it struck me, and I don't know, you guys know far better than me, that's important because you know the shock of getting out and having an immense amount of freedom to potentially go back to a type of lifestyle that got you into prison to begin with, to be able to kind of represent your life in a different way. It seems very important.
It is. It gives us enough time to make that healthy transition,
right,
between the old us and the new us that the Lord has in store for people like us. You know, if we got out and had all the freedom in the world, 9 out of 10 times we'd be right back in prison.
Right. Now, Matthew, I heard a little birdie told me right before we came on air that you had a pretty big Thanksgiving.
I did.
Talk to me about that.
I did. I met a lady the first time I got out of prison named Amber, and we tried to hit it off the first time, but neither one of us was ready, especially me. I really wasn't ready, and the Lord put her back in my path. And I asked her to marry me Thanksgiving Day, and she said yes. So.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Did you try to talk him out of this, Will?
No, I was trying to talk him into it.
It's my understanding you're happily married?
Yes, I got married October 28th of last year.
This first marriage?
Yes.
First marriage?
Well,
okay.
Yeah. I tried it when I was like 14 years old. It didn't work. Yeah. but yeah.
Typically, those 14-year-old marriages, they typically break up.
But I've been trying to get used to waiting on the Lord's time. So I waited and waited and waited. You know, I done graduated and everything. Didn't really pursue women, but the Lord sent a woman to me. Christy is amazing. I love my wife. She's the best thing for me.
That's excellent. Yeah. Well, and you just got yourself a car.
Yeah, she has a new Nissan Murano. She loves it. Well, she got the car. I got the payment.
I was about to ask you. Do you think she's listening right now?
I think she is.
You think she is? Because I figured that because you said that exactly right. I said, you got a new car, and you said, yes, she got a new car. I heard you.
Yeah. She said she was going to buy me dinner if I spoke about her. So.
What's her name? Christy?
Christy.
Well, Christy, thank you for listening, and I'm sure that it's you got a wonderful future together. Huh?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Matthew, when you getting married?
5/25/25.
Oh,
see, I done messed it up already.
Yeah. Well, trust me, as a man that has been married for a long, long time, you won't be the last time that you mess things up. I promise you that. Well, what's your message to folks? And I'll start with you, Matthew, and then go to Will. What's your message to folks listening that perhaps are thinking about digging deep and giving a little money or volunteering some time?
Please do, because we really need it. We really need like mentors, donations, stuff like that for the guys coming out of prison.
Right. What do you think, Will?
So without these donations, Men of Valor, things like this wouldn't exist, and men like myself and Bobo wouldn't be able to overcome like we do. I mean, it takes money to get these men the things they need, to get the programs that we need, and just every aspect of it. We need donations because there's not a lot here.
Well, Will, it's a special place, and I know that it's a special place getting to talk to two men like yourselves. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us.
Absolutely.
Enjoy. Was it a Nissan?
It's a Nissan Murano Platinum.
Well, enjoy. Has she let you drive it yet?
I drove it a couple times.
Well, I mean, yeah, you just have to go ask for permission, right?
I mainly just have to pull up beside her and put gas in it. But
well, Matthew, Will, thank you guys so much for being with us.
Thank you for having
We'll
us.
be back. We got another hour to go on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN as we broadcast live from Valor Ridge. Give.movministry.com. Give.movministry.com. Back right after this.
Good afternoon. It's 2 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Real quick, we still have that severe traffic issue, I-40 eastbound. There near the airport, that would be the 216 exit. We had a pedestrian fatality there several hours ago. The interstate is still, for the most part, closed in that area. Now, they have started moving traffic in one lane, and it looks like they are exiting people off the interstate onto Donaldson Pike. But that is, again, an ongoing situation. No word on exactly when they will open things back up. And as you can well imagine, traffic backed up for miles well past Spence Lane. So just be aware. President-elect Trump's his pick now for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He's been meeting with Senate lawmakers on Capitol Hill today, trying to drum up support. Hegseth is facing a growing chorus, however, of allegations of sexual and personal misconduct.
For some of the more controversial picks, so not so much the Pam Bondys or the Elise Stefanik's, who we've also been seeing making the rounds here on Capitol Hill. Unlikely that Pete Hegseth would get broad Democratic support. He can only afford to lose 3 Senate Republicans.
That is Elizabeth Schulze reporting. A defensive linebacker for the Houston Texans. He's issued a public apology to the quarterback that he leveled during Sunday's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But ABC's Jim Ryan says sorry was just not enough for the NFL.
Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence was taken from the field in a golf cart after Texans player Azeez Al-Shaair laid him out during the second quarter. Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans is standing by Al-Shaair.
It wasn't our guys. Their team overreacted, pushed our guy, dragging our guy to the sideline, so that's uncalled for.
The NFL this morning has issued a 3-game unpaid suspension of Azeez Al-Shaair for multiple violations of rules on sportsmanship.
And now, a Wisconsin man thought to be the nation's longest living heart transplant recipient has passed away. We hear again now from Jim Ryan.
When he was just 41, Larry Plew suffered a massive coronary.
They said my heart was damaged beyond repair.
He received a donor heart on his 42nd birthday in 1985 and was eager to get back to work, but
nobody wanted me for work after that because they thought I was just going to die on them.
With time on his hands,
I figured if I don't know who my donor is, at least I can try to give back something.
Larry Plew became a lifelong advocate for organ donation until he died this week at 80 years old.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Just past 2 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name's Matt Murphy, and conveniently, this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. As I mentioned, both the 12 o'clock hour and the 1 o'clock hour, and I'll say it again for those joining us in the 2 o'clock hour. It's a little bit of a different show today as we're focusing our energy and attention on a wonderful organization that I've been telling you about for many, many months now. It's called Men of Valor. We are on campus at the Reentry Valor Ridge campus right here in Nashville. They've got another one in Knoxville, Valor Way, but we're broadcasting live from Valor Ridge to tell you all about the wonderful work the Men of Valor happens to be doing and how you can help, either through volunteerism or through your monetary donations. Give.movministry.com is the way to donate. Give.movministry.com. And I would remind you that every dollar that you donate, that dollar will be matched up to a $5,000 donation by Core Civic Foundation, and that's just to this hour. They're giving a total of $15,000 in matching money from Core Civic to Men of Valor today. So please, give.movministry.com, and you give $5, and it's really a $10 donation. You give $10, it's really a $20 donation, that being matched by Core Civic. Thanks also to Sage Spring Wealth Partners and Lee Company for helping bring this broadcast to you. We're here till 3 o'clock. We hand off to the drive at that time. We've been interviewing some wonderful people through the course of the afternoon, and we'll continue to do that with two great guests. Tevin Peterson is to my right. I almost got it wrong again, Tevin. Mark Hodge is to my left. Tevin is with he's the Discipleship Director at Men of Valor, and Mark is the Reentry Team Lead. And I'm joined by these two gentlemen. Hello, gentlemen. How are y'all? Good afternoon.
Great to be with you, Matt.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Tevin, what is the most what question do you get asked more often than any other?
Have you ever met Matt Murphy?
That's not true. How did you get a name? Where did the name? See, I bet Mark knew where I was going with this. Where did the name Tevin come from?
Yes, indeed. My father. So I had some my mother and brothers with T names, and I'm the youngest. I'm the baby.
Right.
So they had to get creative. So Tevin. They like Kevin. They said, how about Tevin?
How about it?
I've had to explain that a number of times
I bet
in
you
my
have.
50 years on this earth.
And I bet on your in your 50 years you've never met another Tevin.
I have not.
Well, good for you.
Tevin Campbell, of course, was a musical artist.
Tevin Campbell.
But I didn't meet him.
Am I supposed to know Tevin? Do you know?
No
Tevin?
idea.
I think he's making this up.
Before our time, you know.
The people know.
Tevin's a little older. Or a little more cultured, I suppose. Mark, good afternoon to you. Tell us a little about what you do on campus.
Man, Matt, my great joy and pleasure is to oversee the team that oversees this campus. We house 93 men directly out of incarceration. And our team is what we do great is we welcome, Scripture says to welcome one another as Christ Jesus has welcomed us to the glory of God. Mm-hmm. So our aim is to glorify God by welcoming and loving the men that come directly to us from incarceration. Welcome them with love, welcome them with patience, welcome them with grace, mercy, forgiveness, and just to be there to guide them along the way, to give them a new start and a foundation in Christ.
I mean, how do you describe this campus to those listening on radio? I got an opportunity to tour it with Alex several weeks ago, and what an incredible opportunity for the men that come here to reset their lives and to grow spiritually as they attempt to rebuild a new life for themselves.
Yeah, I'd love to see we walk around with no shoes on because it's holy ground. That's the way we see it. When people come up to our campus, they feel a presence, a difference, just a safety, an environment of love and community, fellowship. So this campus, what it is, it's an opportunity for men to safely grow in their relationship with the Lord, to know God.
Mm-hmm. And what about this this workplace development and ministry center behind you?
We are excited.
I mean, it was what 3 weeks ago that we were here. I don't even know if it was 3 weeks ago. There were no walls. There were, and now we got walls on the lower floor. How about that?
And we are going to have offices. We're going to have classrooms. We're going to have an amphitheater in there for our graduations. We're going to have a baptismal tub. We're going to have a prayer room, a music room, a fitness center, a gymnasium, a bocce court. You name it, man. These guys are spoiled, and we love it, man, because a lot of these guys, they may have never had the opportunity to be impacted this way, or may have grown up in poverty and not just experience the goodness and the blessings that God has in store for those who follow him.
Tevin, talk to me about how you came to Men of Valor originally and how you came to become the discipleship director.
Yeah, humbling. It was 20 years ago. Kurt Campbell, who's our program director, you'll be talking to him in a little while, and we knew each other from he had moved to Nashville to get in the songwriting industry, lived with my grandparents. So Kurt became a great friend and mentor, and I observed him volunteering with Men of Valor, was a fan of it, but he called me, said, I'd like you to pray about joining our staff with Men of Valor. I had a background with discipleship, with Navigators Ministry in college down at MTSU. Incredible opportunity for me to be trained and thinking of how to manage relationships, how to manage money, how to do life in a new way. And we've brought those principles of what was poured into me, we've brought those here to help these guys as they come out of incarceration.
You know, being publicly educated in the state of Georgia, I say this a lot, so forgive me my ignorance on this issue, but, I mean, what do you do as a discipleship director? Are you talking to the men that you then see going out into the prison system to try to disciple and minister men?
Yeah, a few different roles there. Primarily, my job involves volunteers and churches, helping people, and we've had incredible people be involved. That's one of the things that builds my faith in just the good things going on in our city. We have an incredible city here. I grew up here. My entire life I've spent in Tennessee. So we've just seen people come.
They call y'all unicorns,
That's right. You're exactly right, yeah.
Not many of y'all
Not
around.
too many around anymore. We've seen this place grow quite expansively. But I meet with volunteers who say, hey, I want to help. What do I do? And so we help them to figure out what kind of skills and abilities do they have to bring to the table as we try to help these guys. The term we use is relational discipleship. The relational first, that we have to build a bridge of trust. We've got to begin helping these guys see there's a different way of living, and you have the ability to get there. It's going to take work. It's going to take sacrifice and dedication, but we are going to live with you and allow you to experience and learn new people, new methods of living, and how you can do that is a lot of encouragement, but it has to be a humble, teachable spirit. So that's where discipleship comes in. Last year we had over 500 volunteers that came up here to help, and people, business owners, community leaders, just good people that say, hey, what can I do to help? And sometimes people think, well, if I don't have a background of incarceration, how do I help? You just show up. You just show up and you're a hero, because our men throughout life, because of the brokenness and the trauma they've experienced, they've not witnessed men being faithful.
I was talking to Genevieve earlier in the day, and she offered this statistic, and it fascinated me. But it makes sense that half the men incarcerated receive no visitors. And so where do they find those relationships? They've got to find them somewhere. Because we're social creatures, right? And so if you're incarcerated, there aren't many options. You're going to gravitate, sadly, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, you gravitate to a gang-type situation within the system, or you gravitate to something like Men of Valor.
You're exactly right. You either become a worse criminal, you go that direction, or you move towards, I want to live life in a different way.
Right. I
want to live life in a new way, and that's where nonprofits like Men of Valor can come in. We're developing more and more partnerships, with TDOC, and Core Civic has been an incredible partner for many, many years, and so we're developing those partnerships where we can get in and say, hey, look, there is a different way of living. We believe that Jesus Christ, the gospel of Christ, offers freedom. It offers hope. It offers a new life to people, and so we want to bring them that new life, the offer of new life that any of us have. We can turn to Christ and trust in Him and experience salvation and then a new identity, a new life.
Mark, on campus here, we talk about the campus, and I had to remind myself when Alex and I were touring the facilities, and we were looking at the townhouses and looking, and they're beautiful.
Yeah,
but they represent. It occurred to me, we were standing there, we're looking at the fridges and looking at the communal areas, and I'm like, this is just such opportunity for these men. But that opportunity doesn't come without expectations, right?
Sure. Sure.
And I asked Alex, I said, I don't know why this had to click in my head, but I was like, well, these guys are out.
Yeah.
They're free to go.
Yeah.
They can leave campus. If they're out of the prison system, that indicates to me that they can go anywhere they want.
Yeah.
They choose to stay here because they see not just the spiritual opportunity, but the very real world opportunity to get their lives back together by getting a job through the jobs programs and having a place to build that foundation so they're not behind as soon as they get out.
Right on. There's a proverb that said the desire of every man is steadfast love. Men are looking for love. They won't acknowledge it. They're looking for it, and they've found it in all the wrong places. And what they're looking for is a community of people who really care about them and will support them and guide them. And this is about Men of Valor. We're structured. We have rules. We have guidelines. We have an authority that we adhere to. So men that come here, hey, you're going to come. You're going to learn a new way of living. We're going to hold you accountable. We're not going to be passive or say, hey, the things you've done are okay. No, but you've served your time, and now it's time to re-enter life with integrity, to be, as we say, givers rather than takers. So we are here, and we are opening our hearts to men who are willing to receive, and we say quite often, trust the process. So everything we have in place is rooted in the gospel, rooted in the scriptures, and we're saying, hey, as long as you are here and willing to learn and grow and surrender your life to a new way of living, we're here to help you through it. For as long as, we are a 1-year graduate program. It takes 1 year to graduate our program.
Okay.
But if a gentleman needs more time, if he needs 1.5 years, he needs 2 years, we've had gentlemen here 3 to 5 years just saying, hey, I know this journey I've started, I don't want it to end now. And I can't go back into the world just yet.
Is it Dennis, Alex? Is it the 47 years? What's his name?
Tim.
Tim.
46 years.
Walk me through, Mark, when you first met Tim. And for those who don't know, tell a little bit of his back. This is an incredible story.
So Tim Swaffer, we are still struggling to get an ID for this man because he is not even sure of what his birth name was. He was dropped off at the steps somewhere, raised by someone who was not his parents, ended up finding himself in trouble in his teens and early 20s, incarcerated for 46 years, and found himself at the door of Men of Valor.
Wow.
And this gentleman comes in, and you've got to think of the world, how it's changed in 5 years.
I mean, he's a real – I mean, and for those that are listening – and I don't mean to oversimplify this, but if you've ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, he's a real-life Brooks.
100%.
He's 100% Brooks. He went into the prison system 46 years ago. The world was just an entirely different place.
And he has no family. He has a daughter. He has a daughter that he has reconciled with since being here, which is fantastic.
That's special.
Other than that, where would he have gone if there's not a place like Men of Valor? He would be like a Brooks. You'd be out there. You'd be lonely. What do I do? Do I go to the grocery store and get a job? I don't even know how to do that. What is all this technology? What is all these people around me? It's he is man. He's got a heart of gratitude. I'll tell you that much. He understands where he could be and where the Lord has placed him, and he is he's just a pleasure to have around.
I mean, it occurs to me that with all of the successes, I'm sure that there are some slips and there are some failures. There are some moments. Do you just focus on the successes? How do you day to day keep positive and keep the spirit alive?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to remind yourselves of the praise reports quite frequently. I mean, that we Kirk Campbell says quite often. He said, according to worldly standards, we have far more failures than successes. But I tell you what, these successes that come through, and they're reconciled to the family, and they're building up new careers, and they're going out and being an asset to society, and but of course the heartache and the pain of the men, because temptation's real. Their background comes up to creep in, and their old friends come back into life. Now that we got social media, you can't just walk away from the old things. You're constantly connected to your past, and we try to get, hey, don't look back. God's got so much for you in the future. Don't look back. Let's start anew. Be that new creation in Christ, and help us move you into that calling that God has on your life.
Tevin, the same question occurs to ask you in terms of inside the system before they get to the reentry campus. I look at the statistics, and they're incredible. That Men of Valor turns a 50+% recidivism rate into one that's in the teens.
Yeah.
It's an incredible testimony to what you guys do.
Yeah, less than 15% for the graduates. And not only are they staying out of prison, but they're becoming what we would say a giver to the community rather than a taker.
Right.
So just one of the many miraculous things that happens. We've got guys that want to give back. They want to serve. They're reconciling with children. They're breaking the generational cycle of crime and addiction and poverty that it was passed on to them in many cases, and they're the link in the chain that's stopping that from continuing on forward. So let me just do a quick plug to say we need other people to help in this. We mentioned earlier, hey, what an incredible volunteer team and staff team we have. But what's one of the miraculous pieces of it is that God works in the life of the volunteer too, to stepping into this saying, I don't know what I could do with men in prison. Well, we do. We've been doing this over 27 years, and we know things that everybody can play a part. But what happens is when you come in to serve, God begins to work in you and show you, hey, I've got a bigger, the picture's bigger than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a part to play in changing our city for the good and helping us financially, emotionally, spiritually, all of it is woven in. So we'd love to have people look at our website and click volunteer, and we'll get in touch with me.
Yes,
or somebody
please
from my
do.
team will get in touch with them.
MOVministry.com. Now, to give, go to give.movministry.com. But if you want to volunteer, MOVministry.com, there's a volunteer button right there, and you can volunteer. You know, I like to say that it is a pretty special way to live when giving becomes a selfish act. And you know what I mean? When you're getting so much more through the giving than you could ever possibly want or really, you know, in my case, deserve, you know. But it is a special thing that you guys are doing. Thank y'all for being the tools that you are.
Thank you.
Hey, wait a minute. That came out wrong. You're not tools. Y'all know what I meant.
That's good.
Well,
that's good.
Tevin, I was looking, I was looking at Mark when I said that.
I've been called worse, brother. We're good, man.
No, but I just consider you tools of the Lord. I mean,
we're a tool in God's hands. We'll take that as a good thing.
That's right.
Mark, Tevin, thank you guys for spending some time with us. 23 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be back in just a moment. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Dr. Poss and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. I'll tell you my story, right? I went to Dr. Poss, talked to him about being a spokesperson for him on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Never imagined that I had sleep apnea. But I talked to him about not being tired, not getting the sleep that I thought that I needed. He said, have you ever had a sleep test? No. I took a sleep test. Well, I'm one of the 25% of Americans who have sleep apnea but do not snore significantly. I thought snoring was always a part of sleep apnea. It's not. So if you're not getting the sleep that you think that you ought to get, if you're just feeling tired or lethargic in the morning when you had an 8 or a 10-hour time frame in bed, the bottom line is this. If you take a sleep test and you have sleep apnea, there can be an option that's not a CPAP machine. I never would have used a CPAP machine, but I now have the FDA-approved mouth device. It goes in much like if you've ever played football, much like a football mouth guard, right? You sleep with that. It only takes a night or two to get used to, and you sleep so much better. You get a full, restful night's sleep because it keeps that jaw forward. You can find out more at drposs.com. Call Dr. Brian McLaughlin, call Dr. Stephen Poss, and find out if it's right for you. drposs.com is drposs.com. drposs.com for the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
South Korea's president unexpectedly declaring martial law today. We'll have the latest developments on that. And a New York jury now deliberating in the high-profile manslaughter trial of a former Marine. We'll have those stories and more at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Jay Harper. It is 2:27 right now, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we continue our visits with many of the wonderful staff and graduates of the Men of Valor program here on campus. We're at the reentry campus, Valor Ridge, it's called, with Men of Valor. Once again, I remind you, give.movministry.com. That's give.movministry.com. I'm joined by KT, lovingly referred to as KT because I would never remember how to pronounce her first name. She is one of the administrators here at Men of Valor. Is that correct, KT?
Yes, it is. Reentry administrator.
How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah, having a good day?
Pretty much.
Now, what were you just telling me about this fella, Clint?
I was telling you, I met Clint when I worked in corrections for 23 years.
Uh-huh.
And I happened to meet Clint while I was working in corrections.
And I'm sure as soon as you met him, you said, well, this is a guy that I'm going to work with at Men of Valor later on, right?
Never even thought I would be able to be at Men of Valor, so no, not quite.
Mr. Clint, let me see if I can pronounce your last name. Romines?
Romines.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to meet you.
Tell me a little about your experience. How did you come to know Men of Valor?
I was at Trousdale Correctional, and Marcus Martin and Brian Johnson had actually come up there and met me. So I hadn't had a visit in 10 years, and they were my only visit. So that was really my introduction to Men of Valor.
You say that, and it just hurts my heart. The idea that you wouldn't have somebody to come and visit you in that length of time. And I'm sure that did it break your spirit?
In ways, yeah. I mean, not having people, you see everybody get visits, and then you don't, in that time span, get visits.
Mm-hmm.
But them two coming to see me, it changed things.
I bet. What was life like as a part of the program, before graduation? Obviously you already had your heart open to Christ and their discipleship. Just talk to us about the experience on campus.
Well, in my year, it was kind of like a learning year. I took in a lot from a lot of great counselors. I had to learn to do that. And when I first come here, you meet all the new guys every month, and when I was that new guy, I just let them know, I have trust issues. And in that time, throughout that year, I learned something different that for 40 years was not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to know all the staff and just a different way of life. It's been an eye opener.
When did you graduate?
I think 21.
Okay, and now you're on staff.
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
Community care specialist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of broad. I do transportation coordinator. So most of the maintenance, just look out for some of the smaller issues.
You have to deal with this one all the time?
Love to.
KT, how long have you been with Men of Valor?
I've been with Men of Valor for 3 years.
It has to warm your heart to watch some of these stories unfold before your eyes.
It's great to see a lot of guys that come through. I saw a lot of them when I worked in the prisons, and that's kind of what drives me to do what I do, because I see behavior, attitudes, hopelessness while they're in the prisons, and to be able to see joy and hope in them while they're out, as they're learning new things, as they're getting ready to see, what it is that can be different about them than the first day that they were incarcerated, and just giving them a chance to learn a little bit more about Jesus and how he can change, how just believing and being obedient can change their life.
It occurs to me, your experience, you're kind of, you have been within the correctional system, and you kind of saw maybe the dark side of that, and this seems so much the light side of it. It seems this is the place where hope is.
It is. It very much so. Over the years, working in that system for so long, you just see generations of families come through. I've seen the father, grandfathers, cousins, just the whole family come through, and just see them keep coming back and returning to prison. So being able to be out here, I always say I'm on God's assignment and just out doing everything that I can do to try to help some of these guys get over the hump with some of the barriers that are out there when they get out.
How excited are you to look across the drive here and see that workforce development and ministry center go up?
It's exciting. It's going up much quicker than I thought it was going to. Once they got started, they were on the roll, and we can't wait. We're excited, for this place to be a part of this community, the workforce development building, and for us just to introduce it to everybody.
KT, thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate you. Clint, thank you for spending some time with us.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate both of y'all. We've got a quick time out to take. I'm late for the news, and I apologize to Jay Harper back in the newsroom. But we'll be back in just a moment. We're at the Men of Valor campus, Valor Ridge, on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 2:33. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We will get you a weather forecast here shortly. South Korea's president has called off his martial law declaration. It only lasted a few hours, and the move was largely seen as unexpected. The president, in a national address, said he did it to protect South Korea from what he called North Korean communist forces. But the National Assembly voted to lift the martial law. Protests erupted after the declaration outside Parliament. In the U.S. Defense Department, Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder says that U.S. troops were not affected, and they didn't know about it beforehand.
To my knowledge, the U.S. was not notified in advance of this announcement.
In New York, jury deliberations are underway in the manslaughter trial against former Marine Daniel Penny after the choking death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely on a subway car back in 2023. Here's Aaron Katursky. He's with ABC News, and he has more.
The jury was charged. They've been at it in terms of deliberations a little less than an hour. It's going to be a working lunch for these jurors who are finally, after 7 weeks of testimony from more than 40 witnesses, are digging into the question of whether Daniel Penny went too far, as prosecutors say, when he put Jordan Neely in a chokehold.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy, and you. Thank you for being around with us on a very, very special kind of day. And as I said at the beginning of the show, this day was going to be different. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you've enjoyed hearing some of the stories from members of the staff, various roles with Men of Valor, and graduates of the program. It's been wonderful for me, and I hope it's been wonderful for you. I know it's a little bit different than what we do on a day-to-day basis, and I appreciate you indulging me, and I appreciate if you're able going to give.movministry.com. That's give.movministry.com, and give a donation. Any amount of donation is wonderful, and it's worthy, and it's matched by Core Civic Foundation. They are generously offering up to a $5,000 match for each hour that we're on air. So we thank you for that. We thank Core Civic for that as well. Finishing us up is Mike Williams, who is a part of the reentry program. He's a reentry minister and employment specialist, and Kurt Campbell, who's a program director at Men of Valor. Gentlemen, thank you for being on with us.
Glad to be here. Great to be here.
Mike, I mean, the component that you add to the kind of the ingredients that you add to this mix is so very important, because it occurs to me, and I don't mean to I'll ask it in the form of a question as to how you view what you do, but it's such a linchpin in everything that happens at Men of Valor, is getting folks back into the real world, getting them back to work, reintegrating them in a positive way into society. Just talk to us a little bit about what you do.
Well, one thing that I've come to know through Scripture is that all work is honorable. And a lot of the men who we serve don't feel honored in any way, or that they're a part of something honorable.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're able to connect them with an employer who can look at them in their face, not judge them based on their past, but push them to their next level and want to walk alongside them while they're doing that, it does something not just for the employer or the business, but it does something for the man as well.
How is it that you go about developing those partnerships? Because I would think, having met so many of the graduates around here, that once you get those partnerships going, they stick around for a while.
They do, and we are fortunate. I've only been a part of the organization a little under 2 years, so it'll be 2 years in January. Most of the partners that we had were partners that we had when I came in the door.
Sure.
We had some long existing partners who have done a wonderful job of just supporting this organization for a long time. And on the other side of that, we have our breakfast that we do once a year. We invite a lot of people out, and what usually happens is when employers come and they see the stories and they hear about what's going on, they want to be a part of it.
Well, and I should remind everyone, too, and as you said that, it occurred to me to remind everybody, hold on, here it is. The Men of Valor Breakfast, save the date, March 26th in Nashville this year. If you happen to be over in Knoxville, April 17th. But at the Music City Center, March 26th, mark the date. That's a little bit earlier than it normally is, but it's March 26th of this year. Kurt, obviously that's a big event for you guys annually. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be a part of your organization and the organization that the team creates at Men of Valor. Thank you for allowing us on campus. Thank you for allowing us
grateful to have you here. You bet. Yeah, just a quick plug for the breakfast. The last few years we've had about 1,700 people at the Music City Center, and it's the day that Men of Valor gets to tell our story. And really what we say is the story God is writing in the lives of these men and their families. And it's a great event. So we would love it. It's our big event, one for fundraising for sure, but also just to recruit volunteers, kind of get the word out about what we do and why it's important. So we'd love to have any of your listeners that are interested in learning more to come be a part of it.
March 26th, you can find out more at movministry.com. Mike, I wanted to ask, I mentioned the employer component of it, but it occurs to me, too, that the men that come to you on campus, what is that like? What is that dynamic like? Do you sit down with them as you begin the process of trying to find them something to do? And talk to me about that process, how that works.
Initially, when they come in the door, they have to sit down with every reentry participant or worker. And when they come to me, I sit down and talk to them about what they've done as far as work is concerned in the past.
and what they're looking to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on that, we sit down and we look over the employment partners that we have and see if there are any matches there. If not, we try to dream together.
Right, sure. And I would imagine that you can just kind of, by talking to the men that you sit with, you kind of figure out, where those matches might be.
Definitely. And, and we've been fortunate enough to have choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that the men love, because when they're incarcerated, they don't have much of that. So to the degree that we have more job partners, it means that we have more opportunities to send them different places. However, that can be challenging because we provide transportation to and from work for them.
Right. And that structure is so important. And Kurt, I was walking the campus a few weeks ago with Alex. I feel like I hit it well, but it kind of fell on me like a little bit of a ton of bricks that the structure that's provided here is such a necessary component to the growth of the individual as they walk on a journey of love and hope and success. So many of the recidivism, or so much of the recidivism that occurs, I believe occurs because men who have structure, sure, are limited in their ability to make any decisions about what they're doing. When they get out, they're given seemingly unlimited opportunity, and sadly, so often they fall back into the lifestyle that led them to prison.
Unlimited opportunity and very limited resources.
Yes.
Right. And it's interesting because most of the men that we work with, this isn't their first rodeo.
Right.
A lot of them have been to prison, gotten out before. They've gone back, kind of to your point earlier, right? Most of them return if they don't have some kind of support. And so they've tried it, just coming out and doing their own thing, and it doesn't work. And so eventually, after you've been hit upside the head enough, that's what our founder used to say. He hadn't been hit upside the head enough. But once you realize, man, this is a continual dead end, I need to do something different. Mm-hmm. And that's the guys that we're trying to get, right, is men who have experienced enough pain. They've realized, man, life is not to be done on your own. Mm-hmm. I need to go somewhere where I've got support, I've got some structure, some people who will support and believe in me, and I can do this thing. We see it over and over and over again.
This is one of those true, and one of the reasons that I consider it an honor to be a part of the organization called Men of Valor. It's one of those true scenarios where everybody's winning out of this. I truly believe that no matter what you're able to give, if you're able to give $10 or $110 or $1,010, that you're getting that back in spades in terms of benefit to the community and in real money. I mean, I said earlier, we are blessed to live in a state where, our political figures, our lawmakers see fit that if they have excess tax dollars, they're going to let that tax dollar go back to the individuals that earned it. And that's the way that this works. Truly, Men of Valor saves Tennessee money.
Oh, my gosh. Millions and millions of dollars through the years. It's crazy. And a great example, I don't know all the numbers on this guy, but one of our former participants, a guy named Corey Goodwin, matter of fact, give him a shout out, went into the electrical field. Like, he knew that's what he wanted to do was electrical work. And so he started as a grunt, right, just learning, doing an internship through the journeyman process and all that. Eventually was able to start his own company called Rescue Electric, and he's been in business now for a little over a decade. He's hired and trained quite a few guys, and he had over $1 million in billing last year. And you think about what he used to do, what we call it being a taker from the community as opposed to a giver. Now he's paying taxes on over $1 million a year revenue, and he's training other men who have been similar to him, who are also now part of the workforce, who are providing a much needed service in our society because they've been given an opportunity, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
It's a no-brainer, but it still is amazing. Even though the pendulum has swung a lot in 25 years, how many doors remain closed to guys who just need an opportunity to prove themselves.
And I'm sure if there are business leaders, if there are business owners that are out there. Mike, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those opportunities to make matches, I would think, in your world, right?
Absolutely.
And I know you love hearing stories like this. You want to create stories like this where you open those doors and just watch the men blossom.
We do. We believe that the men who we serve are the new gold mine.
Right.
They have They have so much to give and so much to offer. And so many of them, when they come out of incarceration, feel like they've lost years. And so they're trying to make up for what they lost.
Right.
And so you have focused employees.
Well, I mean, no question. What's the message as we begin to wrap up? And Mike, I'll start with you and then turn to Kurt. I mean, what's your message to folks listening that are considering perhaps giving, volunteering, about your experience with Men of Valor? What would you say to them?
One of the things that has always marked Men of Valor in my life was excellence. You know, you can't come up on the ridge and not see or experience the spirit of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants to be a part of that. That's why people buy New York Yankee hats or, Jordan shoes, because they want to be associated with greatness. And that's what you said we receive when we are up on this hill more than we give. You can't be a part of this and not receive more than you give. But you have an opportunity to give in an excellent ground.
Kurt, what about you?
Man, I think just understanding that these men, if you know their stories, you would not be surprised that they ended up where they ended up. It's funny because at the break you were sharing a little bit about your personal story.
Yeah.
Your early childhood experiences led you to where you are today.
That's right.
And our men are exactly the same. And when you heard that they were abandoned at an early age, they experienced drugs at an early age with the supposed role models in their lives, they were taught to be angry at a very early age, to be gang affiliated, to use their manly power to get what they want. I mean, that's just what they were taught. And until they're taught or instructed in something different, until they learn and understand that deep, deep woundedness and the negative and wrong path that they were led down, it's not going to be any different. So at some point, if somebody doesn't interrupt that trajectory and help them discover what we know is real life, and that there's life to be had and anybody can have it, then it's just gonna continue. And it's a generational thing.
I think of it this way sometimes. I ask people to think about, I feel like we've all had inflection points in our lives where, things could have gone well for us, could have gone, or poorly for us. And I ask people to think about that person, that incredibly influential person in your life that created a dynamic by which your life went well in that moment. Now imagine that person not being there, and imagine what the possibilities were for things to go poorly. Now imagine some of these men that find themselves in the prison system that did not have those influential people in their lives to help guide you in the proper way, whether it's to Christ or just to good things in their lives. Yeah. And that's what really puts the human it creates that human dynamic that's so crucial to understanding what Men of Valor does.
And that's what Men of Valor is, the interceptor. I mean, we really are. Right. That's what we do. These guys, the people, the influencers in your life that many of us, praise God, had early on.
That's right.
These guys have not had until now. And because of generous people who volunteer their time, their expertise, their prayers, their finance, whatever, we get to be here to be these life changers.
Well, as we wrap up, I would encourage those of you listening, thank you for indulging us for 3 hours, listening and talking about Men of Valor, and whether it is a prayer, as Kurt just mentioned, whether it's a little bit of money from a donation standpoint or a little bit of time from a volunteerism standpoint, go to movministry.com and see what avenue perhaps you would want to take. We encourage you to do that. Mike, Kurt, thank you so much for being here.
Matt.
We appreciate you. Alex, thank you. We appreciate you. We've got to wrap it up from here. We'll turn it over to Brian Wilson and the drive coming up in just a moment. Go to give.movministry.com if you're you're able. Give.movministry.com to find out how you can give, or go to movministry.com to find out how you can volunteer. It's Matt Murphy from the Valor Ridge campus on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.